The chocolate house. The rain had been falling for 3 days straight when Myra first noticed the house at the end of Willowbrook Lane. She'd walked this route to school every morning for the past 2 years, but somehow the small cottage with its peaked roof and crooked chimney had escaped her attention until now. What caught her eye wasn't the house itself, but the smell of rich, warm, and impossibly sweet air that drifted through the misty air like an invitation. Myra stopped, her yellow raincoat dripping onto the cracked sidewalk. The scent was unmistakable, chocolate. Not the waxy sweetness of candy bars from the corner store, but something deeper, more complex. It reminded her of the hot cocoa her grandmother used to make, back before she'd moved to the nursing home across town, back when things felt simpler. The house seemed to lean slightly to one side, as if it were trying to whisper a secret. Its walls were the color of burnt umber, and the windows a small and round like portholes glowed with a warm amber light despite the gray morning. Myra glanced at her phone. She had 20 minutes before first period. Surely she could spare 5. The garden gate opened with a musical creak, and Myra found herself walking up a path lined with stones that looked suspiciously like enormous chocolate chips. She smiled despite herself. Someone had a sense of humor. The front door was painted a deep cocoa brown, with a brass knocker shaped like a cacao pod. Before she could second-guess herself, Myra knocked. The door swung open almost immediately, revealing a woman who appeared to be somewhere between 60 and eternal. She wore a flour-dusted apron over a burgundy dress, and her silver hair was twisted into a bun secured with what looked like wooden spoons. "Oh good," the woman said, as if she'd been expecting Myra all along. "You're just in time for the morning batch. Do come in." Myra hesitated. Her mother's warnings about strangers echoed in her mind, but something about the woman's warm eyes and the way she'd already turned back into the house, assuming Myra would follow, made her feel safe rather than suspicious. The interior of the chocolate house was exactly as extraordinary as Myra had imagined and nothing like she'd expected. The walls were lined with shelves containing hundreds of jars, each filled with different shades of chocolate, from pale ivory to deep obsidian. The ceiling was strung with copper pots in various sizes, and in the center of the main room sat a massive wooden table covered in cooling racks, molds, and tools Myra couldn't begin to identify. "I'm Celeste," the woman said, stirring something in a copper pot over a small stove. "And you're wondering why you've never noticed this house before. How did you? Everyone wonders that the first time. The truth is, the house has always been here, but it only reveals itself to people who need it." Celeste looked up from her stirring, her dark eyes twinkling. "You needed it today." Myra wanted to ask what she meant, but Celeste was already pouring the contents of her pot into a series of small molds shaped like stars. The liquid chocolate gleamed like liquid silk, and the smell made Myra's mouth water. "What makes someone need a chocolate house?" Myra asked. Celeste smiled. "Grief, loneliness, a broken heart, an empty space where joy used to be." "The house doesn't discriminate, it simply knows when someone could use a little sweetness to balance life's bitterness." Myra felt something tighten in her chest. She thought about her grandmother's empty chair at Sunday dinner, about her best friend Sophie, who'd moved to Portland last month, about her father, who worked such long hours that Myra sometimes went days without really talking to him. "I'm not sad," Myra said, but her voice cracked on the last word. "Of course not," Celeste said gently. "You're just a little lost." "There's a difference." She picked up one of the newly molded stars. Somehow it had already solidified, and handed it to Myra. "Try this." The chocolate melted on Myra's tongue, releasing flavors she didn't have words for. It tasted like her grandmother's laugh, like summer afternoons reading in the park with Sophie, like the rare mornings when her father made pancakes and they ate together without checking their phones. It tasted, impossibly, like being found. Tears pricked at Myra's eyes. "What is this?" "Memory chocolate," Celeste said. "It reminds you of what matters, what's worth holding on to." She gestured around the kitchen. "Each chocolate here has a different purpose. Some heal old wounds, some give courage, some help you see truth, and some simply taste delicious." And never underestimate the power of simple pleasure. For the next hour, Myra forgot about school entirely. Celeste taught her how to temper chocolate, explaining how the careful heating and cooling created that perfect snap and shine. She showed Myra her collection of rare cacao beans from around the world, each with its own story. She shared the secret of her signature blend, a mix of 3 different origins, each one balancing the others. "Why do you do this?" Myra asked, watching Celeste pipe delicate patterns onto a sheet of parchment. "Why the magic?" Celeste paused. "Because the world is hard enough without a little magic to soften the edges. And because chocolate, real chocolate made with intention and care, is already magic. I'm just helping people recognize it." A timer chimed, and Celeste pulled a tray from a small oven. The chocolates that emerged were shaped like tiny houses, complete with peaked roofs and round windows. She selected one and wrapped it in silver paper. "For you," she said, pressing it into Myra's palm. "For when you need to find your way home." Myra looked at her phone and gasped. Somehow, impossibly, only 10 minutes had passed. She should be late for school, should have missed first period entirely, but according to her phone, she still had time to make it. "Time moves differently in the chocolate house," Celeste said, answering Myra's unspoken question. "Now go, but come back whenever you need to. The house will be eerie and so will I." Myra walked to school in a daze, the wrapped chocolate tucked safely in her pocket. When she got home that afternoon, she told her father about the chocolate house over dinner, the first real conversation they'd had in weeks. He listened, really listened, though she could tell he thought it was just a quirky candy shop she'd discovered. That night, Myra ate the house-shaped chocolate. It tasted like belonging, like purpose, like home. And in her dreams, she saw herself standing in Celeste's kitchen, creating her own magic, helping others find the sweetness that balanced their sorrow. The next morning, Myra walked down Willowbrook Lane with a sense of anticipation. The chocolate house was there, of course, leaning its friendly lean, smoke curling from its crooked chimney. Celeste was waiting at the door, 2 aprons in her hands. "Ready to learn?" she asked. Myra smiled and stepped inside, leaving the gray morning behind her. In the chocolate house, she was learning. Everything was possible. Everything could be transformed, healed, or celebrated with the right blend of cacao, intention, and love. And for a girl who'd felt lost for so long, that was the sweetest discovery of all.